Hi, my name is Jessie Kohler, and I'm super excited to get to present to you about my policy that I chose this semester. Okay, so understanding the policy I chose, I'll just read it off of here. In the case of divorce, if one parent loses custody or visitation due to child abuse, they then lose custody and unsupervised visits to all children in the family unit and can't be considered as a viable option for custody if unforeseen circumstances befall the original custody agreement. So basically, the purpose is that if there's a family that the parents are divorced, if one of the parents is found guilty of child abuse and they lose custody of the child they were abusing, one child, they then lose custody of all children in the family unit. I'm going to read this. What is the purpose of the policy? It's from my paper that I wrote, so I thought I would just add it. I'm just going to read straight from it. According to the Child Custody Proceedings Amendment, which is Utah's current policy on custody, the final decision on custody lays in the hands of the judge proceeding over the case. The proposed policy entails a clear directive that if one parent loses custody or visitation rights due to substantial child abuse allegations, they automatically forfeit custody and unsupervised visitation rights to all children in the family unit. This policy aims to ensure the safety of all children involved and prevent further harm. The desired outcomes include improved protection for children at risk of abuse and more consistent legal responses across jurisdictions. Um, so yeah, the point of it is basically just to keep kids out of the homes of abusers. I did want to talk a little bit about where the policy came from. I've had the opportunity to work in elementary schools, and it happens all the time where in a family, one child will be being abused, and so they will go through a whole custody thing and they won't have to go and see the parent who was abusing them anymore. But if they have younger siblings, those siblings still have to go to the parent who was abusing the older child. Um, and then usually those children end up getting abused. And it's like this vicious cycle where if they would have just taken all the children out of the home, it could have been avoided. Um, so that's kind of where the policy came from, is just like seeing how this terrible cycle just affects families and children so negatively when that could be avoided so easily if we just started taking away the rights of abusers. So the goals were stop children from having to go to multiple custody hearings. It can be really traumatic for kids to just have to keep going to custody hearings over and over again, especially in the midst of abuse. With It would be a lot better for kids, especially like in this case, if their parents have gotten divorced, they've already been through one custody case, and now they're going to have to go through another one, but this one includes abuse. And most of the time, when it comes to custody, they're really asking the parents what they want and not the kids, even though kids are the ones who are having to travel back and forth and the ones who have to be in the home with an abuser. Keep children out of the homes of abusers. Obviously, we don't want to have to send a child to someone who is hurting them. It's pretty simple. It seems crazy to me that we would send a child into the home of someone who was found to be sexually abusing someone or hitting someone. Create more consistency in regards to custody and abuse cases. So I like this one because, like it said earlier, right now it just comes down to a judge's decision what happens to a child. And so there's not a lot of consistency for parents right now to know what's going to happen in their custody cases. They just kind of hope that they get a sentimental judge, or they hope they get a judge who has common sense. Um, you never know. You might have a judge who has biases where they favor women or they favor men. This just kind of creates a good layer of consistency so we know what happens when it comes to an abuse case. Okay, so for my advocacy like outreach, what I did was I went and I talked to school counselors. I talked elementary school counselors to talk to them about how abuse affects children. And it was really cool and really interesting. Well, not cool to hear about abuse, obviously, but I got to go and I got to hear about how they all have these cases too. They have so many families where this exact thing happens. They have one kid is being abused, they get taken out of the home, but then the siblings are still going, and then they start getting abused and they start showing these behaviors that are messing with them at home and messing with them at school. And then they have to go through the whole thing that they did with the first sibling. And um, the worst part is most people knew that it would happen, but they couldn't do anything about it. So it was cool to get to talk to them. I advocated for my policy. I told them all about it, and we just had some really cool conversations. I did talk to 5 counselors. I was only able to get pictures with 3. Unfortunately, I wanted to get pictures with all of them, but they were really awesome to talk to, and they had a lot of really insightful things to say. I'm hoping that they'll spread the word around, and I told them that I was going to write a letter to the family courts, and I was hoping that they would, and I encouraged them to also reach out to the family courts. I also talked to someone from DCFS. They did want to remain anonymous, so I don't have a picture with them. But it was interesting to talk to them because DCFS's policy is that if one child is being abused, then they take all of the children out of the home. So I find it really interesting that DCFS already does that. They already take all the children out of the home if one child's being abused, and that judges put children back in the home. So I like this policy because it just follows DCFS's policy that's already in place. So yeah, so talking to them was also really interesting. I feel like I gained some insight there, and I told them about my policy too and got to advocate for that, which was also really cool and interesting. Small plug for school counselors. It was really awesome to talk to them and just see how much they're doing for the kids at their schools at school, but also how much they do for them at home too. They're really awesome people. Okay, this is the letter that I wrote to the Committee of Children and Family Courts. I actually ended up I sent it to the Attorney General. So hopefully it will get spread more than just to the Committee of Children and Family Courts. I'm hoping that it reaches kind of a wider range. But I basically just pointed out why the policy is important, how it can be helpful, what it would do, and the harm of that abuse causes to children, obviously. Okay, so what was accomplished? What did I learn? What would I do differently? So unfortunately, I didn't accomplish a lot on a macro level. I would say I accomplished some on a meso level because I got to go talk to the counselors, and I got to advocate for my policy, and I got to hear what they had to say about it. And hopefully they will spread the word more too. I did learn that it is hard to get a policy like up off the ground. There's a lot to it. There's you can't really just like decide you want it and then just like be like, here we go, let's put it in place now. It was hard to find routes to go about like getting it put in place. In the end, I was happy with what I did. I do wish that I would have gotten farther with it, but I am happy that I got to talk to so many people about it. Um, I will say that I think my major red flag is that at a macro level, people higher up probably would see my policy as too black and white. All the people I talk to, like civilian wise, like my fellow students, like people at schools, and just like people around my community, they agreed that we shouldn't that we should be taking all the kids out of the home. But I can see how at a like higher level um people wouldn't like it, and I understand that, and that is definitely, I think, my like major red flag. So I learned that there I will definitely get a lot of like backlash with that, and I think I just have to be willing to stand my ground with it and fight for something that I believe in. What I would do differently, I think one, I wish I would have worked with other people in my class. I wish I wouldn't have done this alone. I wish I would have had other people to help me. I think that would have been helpful. And then two, very randomly, but I wish I would have done a social media campaign. I wish I would have somehow like put it on social media just because I think that would have spread the word even more. I talked about it a lot with people, but I just think it would have been good to have done some sort of social media campaign where I would have encouraged people, a lot of people to write letters. So we could have just had a lot of letters going to the attorney general instead of just me. So that's probably what I would do differently. I do feel like I learned a lot. I definitely feel like I learned a lot. I learned that I was more passionate about it than I thought I was going to be, and kind of defensive of my policy because I cared about it a lot. But I had fun. I had fun talking about it, and I had fun learning about what I needed to do to get people to hear about it. Um, in conclusion, I thought it was great to get to learn more about Utah's policies on custody right now as it is, and then to get to talk to people about it. So many people didn't know what Utah's policy with abuse was as is, and I liked being able to have conversations with people about it and to educate some people and to get educated myself. So I am grateful for the opportunity that I had. Yeah, I thought this was great. I had a lot of fun. Thank you so much for the opportunity. It's been a great semester. I've learned a lot, and I feel like I've grown a lot as a social worker. So thank you so much. And yeah, have a good one.